I don't know if y'all can tell from watching my channel, but the trend of French girl makeup was years ago, and it kind of has a chokehold on me still. I feel like it's my white whale. Ever since the dawn of its popularity online, it's been eluding me. The effortlessness, the ability to wear high contrast makeup, from the American perception of French girl effortlessness. I have sunk so much money into this fantasy, and today I'm going to be playing with some new makeup and some old makeup and just kind of talking about this phenomenon. So I was in the city last weekend and I went to Rouge and I got the new Le Palette You. How's my driving? And Rouge is owned by Jungmaven. She's very much like Violette FR in the way that she kind of exudes this French girl effortlessness, and you want to buy it from her, or at least I do. So I go into the store in New York and I'm just kind of putting my fingers in all of these things, and I'm gonna walk y'all through as I'm doing this, like why there were things that I didn't buy. And I'm also going to talk about some of my theories about over the years, like why this has been such a difficult aesthetic for me to occupy, and maybe even some notes on personal style. So this one's a little more esoteric. Settle in, we're gonna have a nice chat. We're gonna put some makeup on. I'll have some final thoughts for you at the end on these products. Let's go ahead and jump in. I'm gonna start with this. You can see I've barely used it. This is the Boom Boom Milk from Violette, and this is supposed to be a 3-in-1 cream spray, right? She wants to make everything so easy. I was just making sure that it's like something I actually want to spray on my face. That's the whole thing with like French girl stuff. Every time I talk about French girl makeup, someone shows up in my comments and they're like, French women actually like barely wear any makeup. And I'm like, I know, that's the point. Like, trying to make a video about that is so funny because it's like you're always putting on too much makeup as an American YouTuber for a French woman to find relatable. And I feel like you can really sense it in Violette's earlier videos. I guess all of her videos really, where she's literally like sitting in a cafe with a compact just being like, you know, and she looks fabulous. I've seen her in person. She radiates beauty and effortlessness, but her makeup has never worked for me. With one exception. I do own all of her Bisou blushes. I love these so much. So I didn't actually go through all the things that I'm gonna be using here today because this is the main new thing. It's this mother of pearl compact that has just been all over my feed, and it is these 3, you know, cream eyeshadows that frankly are pretty underwhelming. I really feel like this is such an experience that is kind of lost on me. Like I want to put anything else inside of this gorgeous mother of pearl compact, but like this isn't reaching me. We're gonna apply it anyway, but the reason that I wanted to make this video is because there seems to be something that I'm missing. Because all French girl brands I tend to relate to or not relate to in this way. Like they all kind of go towards a different customer, even though I want to belong to it so badly. So, Boom Boom Milk. Am I boom booming? What do we think? It seems great, you know? I have been in the habit of using very little on my skin lately, but then also doing like generous skin prep when it comes to like cosmetic elegance. Like this is something that I could find really appealing right now. I haven't used it because when I bought all of this stuff from Violette when she launched the new one, this was a supposedly like coral release, and like sure, yes, that is coral, but when it goes on me, it still turns bracingly pink. And so I feel like I kind of set all of it aside, especially because my Bisou balm arrived broken. And for whatever reason, the Boom Boom Milk got, you know, thrown out with the bathwater. So I regret that because this is really lovely. I'm gonna go ahead and use these new Charlotte Tilbury foundations. This is the Unreal Skin Sheer Glow Skin Tint. I actually tried these in a first impression on my Patreon yesterday, and I'm really impressed with them, but they are very much not like foundations. I feel like we are talking about a cream version of the Hollywood Flawless Filter. I got 2 shades. I got the 2 lightest shades, 1 and 1.5, but I'm only gonna use 1.5. And what we discovered on that live yesterday was that this makes a fantastic base, and then you want to put concealer on, so it like blends really beautifully onto the skin, but you don't want to look Tin Man everywhere. But I actually really like it, and the reason that I'm doing this is because I want to have that bare skin appearance, but also correct for the imperfections. But also, while I was in Rouge, in the store Rouge, and I was looking at the makeup display, they had a compact that was color correctors or concealers. And The shade ranges are so poorly researched. They have one bronzer, one. I was like, no, even if it matches me, I'm not going to get on my channel and talk about a bronzer range that has one shade in it. And I understand that there are a lot of French makeup brands. Like I have a lot of money sunk into Chanel, but Chanel seems to have like a broader appeal. And they did eventually decide that maybe like racism isn't like what they should lead with kind of thing. I'm not, you know, accusing of Jean Thomas of racism. I'm just saying Chanel has the money. They should have had those shade ranges the whole time kind of thing. All that to say, I didn't buy a lot of it because it's for such a niche audience of skin tones, of skin types. And where I have arrived over and over and over again with French girl makeup is that these brands are making makeup for themselves, unabashedly. They're really not trying to be super inclusive. They're very take it or leave it, right? I'm gonna use my Hourglass concealer with this. I feel like it worked beautifully yesterday. The reason I wanna use the Hourglass is because in the shade Silk, it is such a close shade match for me for my complexion. So it doesn't look like a brightening concealer. So one of my best friends is French, and he makes fun of me because, you know, as I'm trying to learn French, he's like, you'll never achieve it. No matter how good your French is, it will never be good enough for the French people. You know? I'm like, no, I'm special. And I really feel like, you know, it's the Aries defiance in me that's just like, I refuse to quit. I will earn the approval of the French people. I will get a perfect French accent, even though my French accent is categorically abhorrent. But I think that that extends to the makeup as well. I just feel like I want to belong so much, and I always just end up doing too much. You know, it's kind of like how my American tongue, my American muscles in my mouth will always try and say, Le fille en rouge, you know what I mean? When French is just all about like doing the least. So we've got a little complexion moment going. Now we're going to jump into the actual rouge stuff. My mouth is tired of saying Le fille en rouge. If y'all watch Luke Cook, he played Satan on Sabrina. He basically went viral just for mimicking this girl who was like,
so I went to a cafe the other day and I ordered a pain au chocolat, and the waitress was like,
The pain au chocolat! The pain au chocolat! The pain au chocolat!
because that's how it feels, especially since he's Australian. Anyway, I'm not gonna be using this red shade because good God in heaven, that's my worst color, and it seems to be the color that all French girls want to wear. I bought the one that had the most mauve in it, you know? As I use these things, and I've used them for so many years trying to kind of chase down the fantasy, I found that it comes back to personal style, but also, and this is something where, you know, I don't love prescriptive ideas of like categorizing human beings based on like their coloring or color seasons and things like that. I understand that people find that stuff helpful, but I found it to be kind of restricting and confusing. But I understand that like a much more simplified version of that can make it a lot more accessible to a lot more people kind of thing. So I'm not against it, but I am a huge fan. This is pretty, but like I want to add some of the Violette. This is like the one thing that I am obsessed with from her is this shade Louise. Oh my word, in her Bisou blush. And she needs to put whatever this scent is into a perfume. I have like messaged them about it. It's like this beautiful, bright, honest to God, like floral citrus. It's ridiculous. Like I want to just spray it all over myself, but it's a blush. Feels like a crime. Either way, this is going to fill in the fact that like that is too high contrast and too translucent for my skin, which tends to be kind of the issue with a lot of this kind of makeup, is that it's made for girls with like darker hair than I have and more pigmented lips or deeper skin just in general. And that's why a lot of times it doesn't apply to me, because I can't go with like one product. I have to layer them to like please my own eye. But I'm a huge fan of Amy Smilovic, right? Amy Smilovic owns Tibby. Tibby is a brand that was really big in the South. She made kind of like, not Lily Pulitzer, but like that kind of customer adjacent sort of products. It was a little bit cutesy. It was very like Martha's Vineyard. And then in 2020, she just said, I don't want to do that anymore. She's like, I've changed, I've grown, I'm going to rebrand. And when she rebranded, she also developed this entire philosophy on finding your personal style. And I don't know if you can get the book anymore. I don't know if they're going to reprint it, but I did end up buying it. My mom bought it for me for my birthday. It's called The Creative Pragmatist, and it is an amazing, like huge coffee table book that really goes in depth on how to like find your personal style, how to express yourself through color, why certain outfits, you know, feel good and some don't. And she has this philosophy around the Creative Pragmatist that is called like CMC, chill, modern, classic, but everybody has a modifier, okay? Follow me on this. I'm gonna go in with this eyeshadow palette as we talk about it, and I want y'all to know up front, I find this entire thing to be a little bit underwhelming. Like, it's giving Revlon for me, except for the packaging, obviously, but like this formula, it doesn't reach me, but we're gonna do our best. So the Chill Modern Classic of it all is trying to like balance those three elements in pretty much any look. So she teaches like friction and like the good weird and things like that to make sure any outfit that you put together, if it's not working, you can kind of come back to these fundamentals to figure out how to add something that's a little bit of a twist or a little bit of, like I said, friction to make it work for you. I actually got turned on to this by my sister actually knows Amy from like years and years, like back in Palm Beach, but I got turned on to this anew by Ingrid because she is very interested in personal style. She has a very interesting personal style, and she loves the weekly like style classes that they do, the Tibby style classes. I highly recommend following them. They're like a live, like they're really, really low key. I'm using these two. This one is like insipidly pink. It just looks really bad on me. It kind of turns blue pink and it's just not good. So I'm hoping that using just these two will work. So all that to say, Amy has the three, the Chill Modern Classic, but also you're supposed to have a modifier, and everybody's kind of always on the hunt for their modifier. And I finally figured out my modifier. It's boy, okay? And that is, I think, one of the big, and of course like Chanel has like an entire line of boy, right? But you go into a place like Rouge and everything is so femme, if you will. It's so feminine. And so when I look at those clothes or anything, like if you put me in those clothes, you would laugh. You would laugh so much. First of all, my body is not built for that kind of stuff. Like, I don't look good in things that have any implication of a chest because I have no chest. God bless it. I love not having a chest. It's fantastic. I'm on spironolactone right now, and apparently it makes your boobs grow, and I'm like, please don't. Hope that doesn't happen. I mean, maybe a little. Okay, fine. But like, I was pregnant and grew to a C cup, and then I breastfed for 5 terrible weeks. When they finally went away, I was like, oh, I have my essence back, right? So there are all of these categorizations for us where we talk about color seasons and we talk about our like, you know, body types and kibby, this, that, and the other. Fine, whatever. But the one thing that I do kind of agree with is the whole idea of an essence. And I believe that I have a very boyish essence. I've gotten comments all the way through my channel where people are like, you don't seem like someone who like would want to wear makeup. You know, you seem like someone who looks better without makeup on, kind of thing. And it's because I have this boyish essence, but I love to push it. I love to play with androgyny. I love the fact that like I can play with the sort of like gender archetypes in my clothes and stuff, but at the end of the day, what looks best on me, in my opinion, and what I feel the most comfortable in is something that looks boyish. Like, it has like a masculine silhouette to it, and that's what ends up looking the most effortless on me because of my essence. It's some kind of intangible, right? If I were to go into Rouge, unless it was like an event dress or something where I'm going to be like dolled up going into it, fine. But if I'm trying for the everyday and you put me in one of those cute little French girl dresses that like gathers at the top, I would look so fussy. And when I finally like realized that that's my essence, I don't give a crap about all the like gamine, ethereal, you know, all the assigned ones, like some kind of encyclopedia of essences. I don't care. I'm not like trying to fall into some kind of category. I like the fact that I have kind of a boyish thing about me. And I think that that's what makes it so hard for me to pull off French girl makeup. And so a lot of people watching my channel are like, all your stuff looks the same, or like everything's so blended, or like this isn't how I wear makeup. Like, I like to wear color. It doesn't matter, you know, whether it looks natural or not. That is why, and I stumbled on it, like why I have so much trouble wearing things that are very noticeably makeup in general. So I feel like I made that work, but is that something to write home about? No. I feel like if it's an eyeshadow that works for you, you already own something like it. And the only reason that you might want to own that is because of this absolutely beautiful packaging, right? And she's working on making it refillable, I think, because these pans, I think you can get them out, but I saw that they're working on making it refillable. I think Jamie showed me that. My review on this is that the formula itself is nothing special, but also that like I keep realizing and re-realizing to my dismay, to my chagrin, that I am not the target customer for this, no matter how hard I try. So I did end up picking up a lipstick from Louise. Oh, Rouge. I'm trying so hard. This is the Le Balm in BB, and like, look at that color. It's gorgeous. I wish it smelled better. I can't tell if it is a fragrance or if that's just the smell of the ingredients, but like she couldn't bother to like have it smell any better than that. Ah, I can't put my finger on it. It's like this sicky sweet wax smell. It's just icky. Either way, I want to see how it looks all together here. Okay, so what happens here visually? See if you can follow me on this. Now, I don't have mascara or eyeliner or anything on yet, but what happens visually when you're as low contrast as I am is you put something on that is a little bit more contrasty, right? And what it does is it makes your eye go to the flaws in my eye makeup. It makes it look messy. And there's a big difference to me between like French girl effortlessness and messy, and I have never been able to close that gap. And it's because high contrast things call out other high contrast things on my face, and that's the first thing your eye goes to. So let's go ahead and do my brows and my mascara and everything, and I will see if we can reconcile this, but I feel like kind of talking through this, we are closing in on an answer. I'll let that dry and then I'll knock it off with like a spoolie. Tubing mascara comes off really easily that way. I look kind of sweaty. I think that's partially because of the Charlotte Tilbury, but also because there's no real powder in this look or even any like mixed texture. It's all these sort of just like balmy, creamy things. And I think that that's the first thing that I would solve for. I do want to do a little bit of kind of a creative analysis here. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like I could leave my house like this. The colors work. We just have to figure out how to make everything look more organic. All right, so the first thing I want to solve for is the contrast. This is translucent on my skin. Even though I added the beige from Violette first, it's still giving this not that flattering view of like the freckles underneath it and stuff like that. It's not looking natural, but it's also not looking effortful. It's just somewhere in between, and to me that's giving messy. It's like the difference, like I said, between effortless and messy. And this is where I always get lost because it's like, oh, okay, I'm moving towards try hard. And then what's the point, you know? What I think needs to happen is a little bit of powder because I have naturally a little bit more yellow in my undertones than this. And so it's like I need to kind of bridge the difference between this like purple that's on my cheeks and my natural undertone, which is literally the opposite. So Armani, this is a beautiful shade of bronzer and this is 90. And this is gonna give me hopefully a little bit of a greeny yellow bronze that's just gonna make it look a little bit more like it grew there. Plus it's gonna differentiate the texture a little bit more because everything being so balmy is not flattering. I always say that there is, and I'm not saying that like I have been shoehorned into this by this makeup and like there's no other option within the French girl aesthetic but to wear things that are just making your face shiny. That's not my point. I always believe that the differentiation in textures makes the dewy parts of your face look better, you know, because it's more intentional. And like I said, you know, Jean Dema had the bronzer sitting there in the store. It was just one shade. So bronzer is part of the aesthetic. I just didn't want to buy that one specifically. I'm gonna use this in my eye look as well. I'm kind of building in a color that needs to exist in this look in order for it to look right. And it's literally like a yellow brown because everything is so purple. So I'm matching the saturation, but I'm going against the temperature, the tone. That's a bit better. I also feel like we need to add like a top to the color because this is just such like a mid color that we added a little bit of base to sort of bridge it from my skin, but I feel like we also need to make it look intentional in terms of opacity on my cheeks, and I feel like that is also kind of a powder solution because we want opacity. This is Sex Appeal. This is one of my favorite things that I have bought recently. It's a very light pink shade from NARS. But see, now I'm just looking done. I'm looking quite done. Like all French women watching this would be like, no one would wear that much makeup on a daily basis. No one would fuss that much. And that's why it's just sort of lost on me, right? It's because contrast on someone with a boyish essence like I have, especially on a low contrast complexion, just never is going to look effortless. It's always going to look messy. So for someone like me, in order to achieve this, I have to go with things that are so much closer to my skin tone, and also the undertones of this French girl fantasy kind of makeup from Jean Demat or from Violette always come back to this color, which is my worst color, okay? And it is this pink red, blue red. It's going to go candy apple on me. It looks so bad. Like I can make it work, but I have to work so hard to mix in the opacity and the complexity to make a color like that work on me, because you see how my complexion, like my undertones are trying to turn it like pink, you know what I mean? Like blue pink. And I need things like that. Things that are desaturated, things that have more yellow in them already, things that are going to be closer to my skin tone. So that was Rare Beauty Virtue, which is like one of my favorite things in the world. But if I put this on right now, I will get carried away and just run straight back home to my comfort zone, which is a muted coral or a muted peach. I'm gonna use a little bit of a setting powder, and I think that's gonna be it because I feel like we have arrived at something that looks really nice because of surrounding the high contrast colors with things that make it look a little bit more native to my skin tone, but it wasn't fun. It was very effortful to use. I also have a couple of new lip liners, and like, I don't know if lip liner is a good idea here, but that's the new Ilio one. And I feel like perhaps the little bit of orange that's in that, just a little tiny bit, it's a little rustier than the lipstick. Do you see that? But they go together really well. I feel like that might be the difference, right? To make it just look more intentional, because right now it just looks splotchy and messy. Now this is basically a lipstick. This doesn't dry down. It's very creamy. And this is my first time using it. I've swatched it plenty, but it does go really beautifully with that lip color, wow. And yet, I still feel like I wish my lips were glossy. Burnt Malai, right here. I don't know, that might be too orange. Yeah, I think it's fig sauce we put on there to add just a little bit more health to my lips. So this is a really good example actually of how texture can influence contrast, because when you use something matte, it's going to absorb light and it's going to draw more attention because it's going to show up higher contrast against the rest of your skin. For some people that is fantastic. If you have a high contrast complexion, you can use that to your advantage. You can wear a matte lip because it's going to balance your face out, right? When you have more makeup on. But for someone like me with a low contrast complexion, it almost doesn't matter how light the color is, almost. Prada makes things that are light enough, but it almost doesn't matter because the texture is going to draw your eyes straight to it because it doesn't agree with the rest of my coloring, it doesn't agree with the rest of my contrast. And so even though we didn't really change the color very much, and I increased the actual color saturation on my lips, the fact that it's glossy, your eye is not distracted by it. It no longer calls out the messiness of the eye look. Just the texture change on my lip makes it look more effortless. So, in conclusion, right? The reason that French girl brands selling the French girl fantasy have never worked on me is what? Twofold. My essence is not that of a feminine, effortless makeup wearer. The more you add, the stranger I look. And then the other is that these textures, the finishes on these products are made for people who have an easier time wearing high contrast makeup. It's not about the colors at the end of the day. I can make any color work, but it is the textures and the way that they are geared towards someone who is not me that I feel kind of out of sorts when I put it on, and I just don't get the fantasy. But as soon as I put on Fig Sauce, I'm sorry, the Edam lip balms are everything. There's a reason they're like sold out on Sephora right now. Suddenly everything looks at home, and it's because of contrast, okay? And it's because there is power in manipulating texture in order to control the contrast in your complexion. As we talked about in my last video, or at least I kind of put it as like a blurb on the screen, there's no such thing as an actual color. It is only the way that your eye is perceiving light. So we did two things, right? I filled the color because it was too high contrast and too translucent against my skin. And we also manipulated and differentiated the finishes on my face so that the eye goes to the parts of your face that you want attention on, you know, plump cheeks and things like that. It doesn't go to the very imperfect lip that is so specifically French girl. You know, it is that imperfect blotted lip. I feel like that is where it all falls apart for me. That's why it doesn't work on my complexion, is because that finish in combination with the imperfection of it calls out every other imperfection on my complexion. I know that this is a little bit more esoteric, a little bit more nuanced than my sort of curriculum-based videos that I've been doing, but I also think that it's important to put it into practice to see why certain things are challenging. To watch me do it right all the time is not helpful. To watch me try and solve for something that isn't right and is confusing and is kind of like niche in all of the reasons that it's not working, I feel like that is a valuable exercise. And I hope that it helps people understand like why these things work for them and maybe other things don't, and maybe why this has never worked for them and maybe how to tweak it to make it work for you in the future, because I do feel like this works. As far as the quality of the products, I adore these, the Bisou blushes. I've already said that. The Bisou Balm is fine. It's fine. Again, it's a matte lip from Violette. It's just not going to ever really work that well on me. The lipstick from Jean Dumas in BB, an absolutely gorgeous color I should have no problem wearing, but like it will work better as a blush on me than a lip because of the finish, because of the texture. And this is her balm. She does have a matte lip. She does. As far as her cream compacts, I feel like these are kind of nothing to write home about. I'm really sorry. I understand that these are really beautiful to interact with. And so if these colors work for you, then this packaging, hello, is such an added bonus. But for me, for my needs, for my complexion, I'm not saying for everyone, but for what I want to wear and for the ease and pleasure, makeup should be fun and easy to use in my opinion, I would choose other things. And also a lot of people have been comparing these to the Rowan Shadows. Can I just say, if you've got Rowan 1111, you do not need this, especially if you like Rowan 1111. These are not very textured. There really is almost nothing to them. I mean, look at that. The colors are unremarkable. I don't feel like they go together very well because that is such a blue pink. It has no business being in this palette. And while I can make the colors work, I don't think that it is a pleasure to use. I don't think that it feels effortless, and they're all the same texture. They're all the same amount of shimmer. I feel like I said, Jean Dumas made this for herself. And if it looks good on you, it looks good on you, but I feel like it's an incredibly niche audience, incredibly niche. There are so many more exciting and better ways to spend your money, especially when, if you examine your reason for wanting some of these things, it truly is a fantasy self. For me, it's a fantasy self. And confronting that and solving for it makes me be able to look at the formulas as they actually are. And I have to be honest, like most of them are pretty unremarkable. Now, as for the Charlotte Tilbury, I'm really enjoying it. I think that it's really lovely. I don't think it's a foundation. Nonetheless, I think that it's beautiful and I think that it works really well in this context. And something that I will continue using actually is the Boom Boom Milk. It's beautiful skin prep. It's very low key. The spray actually works going directly on the skin. It has a tiny bit of grip to it without it feeling sludgy. It didn't get in the way of anything. It didn't like ball up, but it did add a beautiful cosmetic layer of hydration to my skin that also I think would work for many different skin types because it wasn't heavy. It wasn't emollient. It didn't feel oily. It just felt cosmetically pleasant. I'm gonna keep this one out, the one that doesn't have any color to it. The one product that's translucent out of all of these. And let me know, y'all, if this is valuable to watch me sort of apply these techniques to a challenging makeup situation and troubleshoot it. For myself, is this applicable? Like, does any of it resonate? Are there other things that you would like to see from me in this vein where we're actually like applying all of the stuff that I'm talking about? So let me know. If you liked this, please do give the video a thumbs up. If you're new here, hello, hi. Welcome. We have a lot of fun. It's a beautiful community, incredibly supportive. We love color theory here. We love getting in the weeds. We love comparing products. And I'm always going to tell you exactly what I think. It might be in too many words, but I'm gonna tell you exactly what I think. So if all that sounds good to you, please subscribe while you're here. Thank you to all of my current subscribers. I love y'all so much. My current patrons, y'all are the best. If you wanna join me on Patreon for very spontaneous first impression lives that I just announce like 5 minutes beforehand usually, but they stay up later so that you can watch them. The link will be down below. You can join for $1. Thank y'all for being here. I'll put a video up here that I think you'll enjoy if you liked this one, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.